Hello, this is Tyler, the Crypto Guy, and this is episode 2 of this series. Phone's ringing. Now, when I was speaking last week, I was talking about the OCC providing guidance to banks and savings institutions regarding the safeguarding of crypto assets. So when I was reading about that a little bit after the video, it comes to find out they've been working on that for the past 2 years, ever since 2018, following the crypto boom where you saw Bitcoin rise to $20,000. It'd be crazy if it gets back up to that, which I think it will. So they've been thinking about that for a while, and then when they came up with this interpretive letter, they wanted to essentially check all of the boxes, think of any potential outcomes where if this happens, then that happens. If this happens, then that happens. And make sure banks can follow their risk management protocols and stuff like that. So it was very interesting to read about that. And I would love to see what comes about that, because if banks and savings institutions are able to actually safeguard crypto, then that just opens the door to a lot of different applications, which kind of rolls into what I wanted to talk about today. So I mentioned in the last episode, essentially there's this thing called DeFi, Decentralized Finance, that's white hot right now, just booming and exploding, and a lot of people are making a lot of money just doing stuff that they do now. So let's talk about DeFi and CeFi, or centralized finance. So DeFi, short for decentralized finance, is a situation where all the financial services and products that we essentially use now, like financial applications, that could be run on the blockchain, essentially in the internet. It's an open finance movement, and it allows an open alternative to every financial service, including savings, loans, trading, insurance, and is made more accessible to everyone. All they really need is a smartphone and connection to the internet. That's game changing. Whereas with centralized finance, you essentially have to come into a bank or whatever institution, create a bank account. They run checks on you. You got to have an ID. You need to have a secondary form of identification, and there's just a lot more checks and a little bit more hassle going with centralized finance, traditional finance, rather than decentralized finance. So that's that. And with DeFi, it's more open source and transparent, so anyone can really look into the code of a smart contract or the DeFi platform underpinning this entire thing, and essentially audit it. Whereas with centralized finance, it's a little bit more closed doors. A group of people, a group of directors, essentially dictates what the policies are going to be going forward. So it's just a game changer. And DeFi really functions in multiple ways. So the main one, there's three, right? So you can create monetary banking services such as stable coins. So there's a stable coin called USD coin, and for every USD coin, $1 is held in a bank, so it's fully collateralized. So one USD coin translates into $1. And that essentially tokenizes the asset, so you're allowed to use US dollars on the blockchain, right? So it just opens a lot more doors behind the scenes, You can provide peer-to-peer or pooled lending to borrowing platforms. Let me reword that. Providing peer-to-peer or pooled lending and borrowing platforms. So essentially, say I own a group of assets. What I can do is place it into this platform. Somebody else can borrow that, you know what I mean? So they pay interest for borrowing, and then I earn interest for lending. That's essentially the main business model for banks or any financial institution. When you give out loans, you earn interest on that essentially, and then somebody pays interest. So it's a really nice and convenient and forward-thinking way of earning interest or passive income. And then another one is enabling financial instruments such as decentralized exchanges, derivatives, and prediction markets. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a futures market or margin trading, leverage trading, stuff like that. It's really some complex stuff that already exists, but it's kind of in its infancy for the cryptocurrency space. You know what I mean? So, like when I was reading all this stuff, like understanding the technicalities of DeFi is actually really complex, and it's time consuming just to like really understand like the technicalities of it all, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of interesting developments that happen like daily. You know, like there's millions and potentially billions of dollars locked onto these platforms, like just running. You know, it's crazy. So yeah, like I think it's better to realize the doors that DeFi opens when it comes to regarding finance and how to use them and how to benefit from them.